I have been sent a deck, and I have been told that it is the Psychic Frog Killer. So, we're going to test that hypothesis today, and we're going to see if this deck is great, or if this is just another deck that has a good Delver matchup. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to be playing with a nearly mono-black deck list. It just has a tiny bit of white in it. This is Dan's deck list, and it is designed specifically as an anti-frog meta contender. I don't really know where to start with this one, so why don't we start with some creatures with lifelink. This deck is seeking to gain some life with cards like Exsanguinator Cavalry and Nighthawk Scavenger, which is Vampire Nighthawk, but on drugs, and the drugs are the graveyards. And we are going to couple this with some cards that have seen a lot of play in other formats. Knight of the Ebon Legion is very unimpressive as a 1 black mana 1/2. However, if you have the mana to pump into it, and it is instead a 1 mana kind of 4/5, it starts sounding a little bit better. At the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you also get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. So if you are activating it, you are temporarily pumping it while also permanently growing it. And one of the cards that's sort of interesting here in the deck list is Sorin of House Markov. So it is a 1/4 lifelinker, unexciting, with extort, kind of unexciting. But at the beginning of each of your post-combat main phases, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, you get to exile it and transform it into the Planeswalker Friend version, which still has extort. You can make a food token with it, but the -1 ability is probably what we like about the backside here. For -1, it deals damage equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn to any target. And for a -6, you can gain control of a creature and take your opponent's Murktide region or whatever and put a lifelink counter on it. Now, in the hypothetical world where we have an unchecked Nighthawk Scavenger or Exsanguinator Cavalry, we can realistically very, very easily gain 3, 4, 5 life a turn. And we have some other things in the deck that are going to gain us some life, such as Sheoldred the Apocalypse. So that means that our Sorin House of Markov could be doing beyond a lightning bolt worth of damage here with its -1. And we are going to be playing a lot of Sorins, so if you like your long-haired, slightly broody boys, this deck may be for you. And this basically makes Vampire Nighthawk tokens, which is cool. No Death Touch, though. As far as other notable things about the deck list, there's very, very little white here. There's 3 different white cards in the main deck here, including Indulging Patrician, which is a flying life linker that can cause your opponent to lose 3 life. You could get a little cheeky sometimes with this deck and maybe do something like Swords to Plowshares one of your own creatures. Like say you've got a Sorin House of Markov that your opponent is trying to remove. You could Swords to Plowshares at Exsanguinator Cavalry, turn your Sorin into a Planeswalker, and that might be kind of a neat way to do the Tamiyo Brainstorm trick, but in Orzhov colors. One notable piece of tech here is Dark Betrayal, which has been seeing a little bit more legacy play to just destroy target black creature. This is a 1 mana answer to Psychic Frog that also can hit something like an Atraxa or a Troll of Khazad-dûm. I'm not sure if this is better than just running something like Dismember, especially if we can gain a bunch of life in this deck, but it is a pretty efficient piece of tech. So yeah, let's hop into a league. Let's see how this deck feels. Folks, if you find you need some Magic cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. Tales of Adventure is an awesome store. You always get free shipping on all of their stuff if you order online. Promo code ThrabenU can save you a little bit on your order. And if you're going to Vegas, you can even order your stuff in advance and pick it up on site and save yourself the hassle. Let's battle. We have opened up the first game, first match with double Urborg. That's not great. We're going to mulligan this one. This is a perfectly fine hand. I am going to keep this. We can turn 1 Dark Ritual, Exsanguinator Cavalry, turn 2 Bowmasters. What does my math look like here? Just ballpark 21 lands. That is relatively land light. I have a large number of 3-drops. I think I keep my third land and throw back the Sholdred. And I think we're going to be pretty bad versus a Daze here. Like, we Dark Ritual into Exsanguinator Cavalry. We just get this countered some portion of the time. Okay. Alright, my opponent made their pile. So they are playing a Tamiyo version. 1 Force of Will, 2 Force of Will, 3 Force of Will, 1 days, 2 days, 3 days? Okay, so counterspells are potentially live. Well, that Long Goodbye probably not doing a lot here. The turn that matters the most is probably this next turn cycle. I think I'm probably going to play Orcish Bowmasters around days here before my opponent can have a chance to untap, draw some cycling card or some brainstorm or something, and hope that this is good enough. I play around days, I don't play around Force of Will, and honestly, I don't even know that this is going to be enough to produce a win. But if my opponent was kind of slow rolling things to get some protection, maybe. So this plays around hypothetical counterspells, and opponent is just chilling. That is not doing much for me here. I will crash in for 2. We'll see if I'm dead. I do have a Long Goodbye, so like technically I have interaction versus a Thassa's Oracle that resolves, and this can't be countered. Alright, opponent goes down 2 life, down another life. This is lethal. Thassa's Oracle is in play. Fetch. Swamp. Goodbye. And that can't be countered by my opponent's Daze or Force of Will here. And I have lethal on board. We got lucky. Technically supposed to play my land pre-combat in case there's some weird bizarro counterspell. Or not counterspell, removal spell. But I couldn't think of anything, so dead 'em. Note that it is exceptionally rare to actually disrupt Doomsday combo by removing the Thassa's Oracle, and that is maybe something you should not expect to actually happen. Okay, so there's Psychic Frogs and Tamiyos in the opposing deck, so that means spot removal is good, despite spot removal being quite weak otherwise conceptually versus Doomsday. I think I'm going to ignore this like Damping Sphere Null Rod type interaction and focus on killing the creatures that support the plan and hope that we can aggro out our opponent. Let's ignore Touch the Spirit Realm for being slow versus Daze. We can bring in more efficient removal that ignores counterspells. Although this does take away my ability to blink my opponent's Thassa's Oracle at instant speed to make them win. Never mind. Alright, let's cut this. This requires multiple pieces to work. Where do we go from there? Cling to Dust is pretty slow and maybe not great versus Psychic Frog nonsense. One of Sorin's? I can play this turn 1, put a Nighthawk Scavenger into play, start growing it. Like at the same time, this probably isn't doing a ton. Do I want the Dark Betrayal? Dark Betrayal hits Frog but doesn't hit Tamiyo, and I'm already boarding in 5 more removal spells. I don't think so. This feels unexciting, but fine. Let's see if there's a Tamiyo. There is a Tamiyo. So I could have 4 mana on turn 2 and play like Hymn to Turok followed by Long Goodbye. I don't think I want to use my only removal spell immediately in case Psychic Frog comes down this turn. I think I'm just going to play Shadowy Backstreet here rather than play a 2-drop this turn and a 2-drop next turn. It's a little weird if my Dark Ritual gets countered next turn. Immediate Surveil. And notably, Long Goodbye does destroy a creature or planeswalker, so if my opponent just like brainstorms and flips Tamiyo, I can still destroy it, and that's not actually spooky for me. Have your clue. Sholdred. I like Sholdred conceptually, but Sholdred is dazable. I don't like that part. Alright. Dark Ritual resolves. I think I'm going to Hymn into Long Goodbye. Get rid of 2 mana sources. I think I like the uncounterable Long Goodbye. It's awkward if my opponent brainstorms right here, but I think I'm good with it. Alright, opponent just cracks a clue. That's fine. And now I can play Bowmaster around Daze into Sholdred, which will be dazable and will probably be the first good Daze target of the game. No further land drops. Fantastic. We'll just make a land drop past the turn. I'm going to let you draw. We'll do Bowmaster end of turn. Sure. I'm not going to say that's fine. That's resolving. I'm just going to Bowmaster ping face. Drop my opponent to 18. So, do I just want to play the Sheoldred? My opponent paused for a long time on Dark Ritual, meaning that they might have a counterspell. I think I am not just jamming Sheoldred here. I'm gonna ping face, play out my knight, and call it a turn. I don't think I'm super interested directly attacking into Frog here. I think I'm fine if my opponent wants to hit me with the Frog, trigger Bowmaster twice. And now I don't know whether or not I'm going to be activating this with my mana, or just... Oh shit, they are just going for it. This is a lot of damage on the backswing. So draw your card. I don't think I'm going to Bowmaster ping the Frog. I could force my opponent to discard a card, but I think this game is about life totals. 4/4 Orc now. Potentially swinging for 10 damage on my turn if I pump mana into Knight. Does this have to see the damage? How is this worded? If a player lost 4 or more life this turn, fantastic. So I guess let's go ahead and attack on in, see what happens, and then I can decide whether or not I am playing any spells. This is currently 4, 5, 6, 7. I can make it 10. I think I will attempt to make it 10. Yeah, I mean, this is getting Fatal Pushed rather than a Bowmaster. That's great. Oh? Dismember. Sure. So my opponent only takes 2 rather than 10. That's pretty good. Is the last card Daze? I'm fine trading Daze here so that I can resolve Sheoldred next turn if that's the case. And my opponent can, like, draw another card with Psychic Frog and make my Orc come back. I would be fine with that. A Tameo. Sure. Okay. Just converting Cavern of Souls into a counter for Psychic Frog. Fly over my stuff. I'll take the 2. Yeah, I'll take the 2. Deal 2 damage back. End up creating another creature as well. Dismember. Is this lethal? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not lethal. I'm going to go ahead and make my opponent select their blocks before I do anything else with my mana. Block on Orc. Sure. Let's kill this Frog. We're going to pay some life here and a little bit of mana. Take that out. Activate this. Deal 6 to my opponent, which is going to put a +1/+1 counter on my creature. All right, we have gotten the GG in chat. All right, Frog Killer killed Frog. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists. And they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. All right, so Lake of the Dead is an interesting land. If it would enter, this is a replacement effect. If it would enter, you sacrifice a swamp instead. If you do so, you put this onto the battlefield. If you don't, this goes directly to your graveyard. And in this case, this not being a basic land or any normal land probably means that this hand has to be a mulligan, unfortunately. Oh boy. I'm going to keep this one. Touch of the Spirit Realm goes back. And then I have to make an immediate decision. And that immediate decision is, am I going to play around the card Force of Will? It's probably not correct to. Oh, fuck, this is 4 mana Sorin, not 3 mana Sorin. Vampire boys all look the same. They have the same name, too. All right, in that case, this is not as difficult of a decision. I think I just jam Exsanguinator Cavalry and hope for the best. Boop. Yeah, I thought it was going to be Dark Ritual, Sorin, minus Sorin, put an Exsanguinator Cavalry, hope to put 2 +1/+1 counters on Exsanguinator Cavalry the following turn. Ancient Tomb, Spirit Guide, Fable. I need more mana. If I hit my land drop, I think I'm okay. That's kind of like mana. I'm going to send on in. We get to deal 2 damage, gain 2 life, put a +1/+1 counter on my creature. If I play this turn, I can theoretically attack for 3 and 4 this turn. This is a Knight for Exsanguinator Cavalry. I think I'm going to play it over Thoughtseize. It's very unlikely that I disrupt my opponent with a Thoughtseize because they can do a draw 2, discard 2. And hopefully we can blood token our way to some more mana. If I can get a Nighthawk Scavenger into play, a large flying Death Toucher is pretty annoying. As of right now. Wow, main deck Red Blast. Fuck those blue decks, though. So, ooh. I could get Furied this turn. You've got it. Let's see how bad this is. Yep, that's pretty bad. Rip. So now I think we need to attempt to loot towards something better than what we've got going on here. I need mana, which I do not have. The Exsanguinator Cavalry Gambit did not pay off. Okay. So opponent is Painter, not Red Prison. That got spicy. I'm going to lose to Reflection of Kiki-Jiki Fury here. Gain 6 life. I can't long... No, I can. Long Goodbye Reflection. I can't get Fury. Effectively dead. I guess I can Thoughtseize my opponent, look at their hand. Pyroblast. Yeah, with Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast here, this is almost certainly Painter. Okay. Yeah, but I just take 6, 12, 14 this turn. So I'm not recovering from that. I like Null Rods versus Painter. I don't think I am going to go like the Damping Sphere route to try to slow down Soul Lands. Long Goodbyes and Dismembers are reasonable as well. You're hard to cast. Let's get rid of you. Is Touch the Spirit Realm necessary? It's some instant speed interaction. I should have a decent amount of that already, and this is the off color. I'm going to cut those. I think I'm going to keep the Cling to Dust, but not board in fairies for the graveyard. I probably want to interact with the board rather than the hand when possible. That would give me this configuration, assuming that I keep all of the Sorins. I'm not going to say that it sparks joy or anything, but this is a keep. It's turn 2 Null Rod into turn 3 threat. And if I really have to, I can play a Long Goodbye on turn 2, although I would prefer not to. And I can sneak a Surveil land in here. Sure. Let's Surveil Urborg. No thank you. Yeah, we have a really good curve from here. You can make an argument that I should fetch a basic swamp here to play around like Blood Moon, Magus of the Moon effects, but I don't think those are going to be in my opponent's deck in large numbers right now, after I played a mono black game in game 1. Alright, the treasures from this aren't live, so this is just a 2-2. So I think I can leave that body there. Play out Exsanguinator Cavalry. The shame we don't get the Sheoldred into play before the Fable of the Mirrorbreaker looting happens, but you can't have it all. Great Furnace, Vexing Bauble going to graveyard. Saga. I'm not the best versus Saga. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot of value. Sure. So I have 6 mana this turn. My opponent is intending on double blocking my Exsanguinator Cavalry. I think I'm just going to say no to that. Menace. So let's Dark Ritual. Give one of them a Long Goodbye. Play my Sheoldred. Swing in for 2. Menace. And lifelink. And make a blood token that I can wait. Perfect deck building. Bring 2. Would you like to do your discard draw stuff here? Negative. So we're looking okay short term. I am definitely concerned long term that my opponent is just going to outvalue what I'm doing. I don't get to use my blood tokens to loot away this land because of Null Rod. It's possible like Urza Saga just buries me alive. But my opponent is at 12. Dark Ritual, terrible. Okay, so Exsanguinator Cavalry attack. My opponent has a 2/2 Urza Saga token. So I could trade with Urza Saga or Goblin Shaman token. I can also just hold Exsanguinator Cavalry back so Goblin Shaman or copied Goblin Shaman can't attack easily. Let's inform my decisions with the second shadowy back street and do my surveilling. That's a good card, but it's really not what I'm looking for right now. I think I'm going to hold back defensively. I don't think the defensive game is favoring me. What about a Sheoldred attack? Sheoldred attack is probably fine. My opponent would have to put all 3 in front of it to kill it. That would be favorable for me. What if I attack with everything instead? Yeah, what if we attack with everything instead? Make your 2/2. Oh, everybody's dead. That is fine. So Death Touch means that I just wipe the board here. Exsanguinator Cavalry grows to a 4/5. Man, I wish I could use these blood tokens to loot for something. So it goes. Hopefully this ends up being better than my opponent's Fable and Construct token. But they have 5 cards on hand, so I guess it depends on how much Null Rod is actually stopping. Ooh, down to 7. This is going to be a 3/3. Soul Guide Lantern wouldn't be surprising here, just as something that can get some minimum amount of value. Ooh, that's an artifact land. That's not great. I mean, I guess it's still growing the Construct. I think my opponent just realized they don't have a 3rd mana. It'd be such a good turn to draw a removal spell. Get a mid-combat blowout. That's absolutely savage. Basic Swamp, though. Things get pretty bad for me if my opponent untaps with both of those. I think I have to keep this creature. And hopefully draw removal later. So this land is off. This land's not quite off, but it's pretty close to off. And I have enough life that my opponent isn't just going to like 2-turn me with Construct tokens, especially if I crack back with Exsanguinator Cavalry afterwards. I would like to not play an Urborg this game, very notably. That's a 3rd Fable. Sure, let's draw like a Bowmasters or a Sheoldred, huh? Alright. Or Swamp. Or Swamp, though. I am absolutely cursing this Null Rod. It is potentially keeping me from dying to a Grindstone, like, let's be perfectly clear here. Like, that is a thing that it is actively doing. But it is rough right now. Opponent gets rid of Karn and Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Goblin Engineer. Sure. Putting a Painter in yard. This Construct can just attack in kind of for free. My opponent has some really cute lines now with, like, Reflection of Kiki Jiki, copy Goblin Engineer to keep tutoring things into the graveyard. Life's bad. Bowmasters. It feels a little late. I'm going to go ahead and pass the turn. And we're going to hope that our opponent does something like bring back Phyrexian Dragon Engine, hope to draw 3 cards, and then tap Ancient Tomb. Yeah. I've seen that trick before. We potentially might just die any number of different ways to my opponent's fair stuff at this point. Things can get really scary if Pyroblast gets involved, for example. All right, opponent going for Painter's Servant here. That is happening. My opponent is now presumably going to Pyroblast Null. Oh no, Pyroblast Exsanguinator Cavalry. Sure. Just attempt to kill me? That is 3 mana to activate Grindstone. I'm going to die. I think. Maybe I don't. You can have your treasure token. This is 6, 12, 13, 14 damage. I think I am going to start by looting away with some lands. That's cool. That's not what I'm looking for. Let's loot away another land here. All right, none of that saves me from death from Painter Grindstone combo. So let's Bowmaster. Ping opponent's face. Block 1 of these. Take 8. And then opponent is going for it, unfortunately. Blah. Dead. GG's. Okay. Lake of the Dead, making another hand unkeepable. Even if I can play Double Knight, I don't know that the hand is a keep, but I don't think this Lake of the Dead belongs in the deck. Second hand is going to be fine. How much life? 3 or more life. How am I gaining that life? Nighthawk Scavenger, I guess. I think I'm going to get rid of this. I think I am Dark Ritualing out Nighthawk Scavenger on turn 1 a decent portion of the time. Sure. I'm not fetching immediately. So yeah. And yeah. Swords of Plowshares is not very awkward, and we can definitely feel some of the tension in this not being a mono black deck and this just being Fatal Push. Troll Cycle. Sure. Well, we're going to get another look at this deck versus Psychic Frogs in all likelihood. Okay, cool. Creature stays in graveyard. This is awkward. I need this other land, this other card type in graveyard here. Do I get Scrubland? I think I get Scrubland. I think it's okay. Fuck, opponent's graveyard. I'm an idiot. That was wrong. Been playing with real goifs recently. Send in for 2, not 3. My bad. So, when I am not able to cast a white card later, we'll know why. So, like, I might not long goodbye plus extort next turn. Whoops. Now we're a 3/3 Metamorphosis Fanatic. Sure. That's not something that dies to long goodbye, notably, but it does cost our opponent the Wasteland, which does mean that I can remove the Troll, which I think is more important than the lifelinker. Dark Ritual doesn't do me any good. So, Swords of Plowshares, target Troll. I will extort. Rain 1, remove Troll, send in with Nighthawk Scavenger. My opponent to 21. So I have gained 3 life this turn, not 4. Do I actually want to transform this? My opponent just gets to immediately attack it for 4. Putting it back down to 1, it dies to Bowmasters. I don't think I do. Not optional? Card sucks. Huh. Make a food, I guess. Yeah, okay. Assuming all my shit is still here next turn, like, I can crack the food, maybe extort, gain 2 or so life. Wow, this not being optional is really fucking bad. Like, I went from not caring about this Metamorphosis Fanatic at all to caring about it greatly. Ugh. I guess I could have played this differently. Sure. What can you do with it? Oh, that's fine. This is now a 5 power creature. Weird turn. Dark Ritual. Extort. Daze. Sure. Go to combat. Attack for 5. Opponent goes to 19. I can now minus Sorin and deal 5 to something. If I put this in the graveyard, this fucker comes back with a troll later. If I send this at my opponent's face, my opponent undoes all of that damage immediately. I hate this. I'm going to kill this. I'm just not happy about it. I can't really leave it in play, but I think I'm just hoping that my opponent does not have more fuel. Also, how is this an anti-frog card when frog can just nuke the graveyard and really hamper this thing? I guess it still has 1 power no matter what. All right. Probably lose this. Oh, no, I lose the little guy. Sure. Okay. Could have been a lot worse, honestly. I don't hate this. I'm holding up activate food, play Bowmasters, and play Long Goodbye all at the same time. All right. I'm leading by 23 life. Why does it not feel like it, though? Oh. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Yes. You don't get to actually snag the Brainstorm all that often in Legacy. It's the pipe dream, and it happened. This will bring our opponent to 8. Now, keep in mind that my opponent's Brainstorm may have put a Metamorphosis, never mind, Fanatic on top of deck, which, you know, can bring back Metamorphosis Fanatic, which can bring back Troll. That's an Atrexa. I can still very, very easily lose this game. Oh? Well, you get pinged anyway if my opponent has Bowmaster. And my opponent, like, throws the token here. Yeah, you get pinged anyway. Send it. Fatal Push is fine. This is 6 damage. Reanimate is off the table. I still feel like there's such a high chance that I lose. Okay, like, opponent had all the same side of the deck here. Putting another Metamorphosis Fanatic into the graveyard. I'm not sure if that's correct, unless they already have the reanimation card, because you are taking away a live draw. If you draw a Metamorphosis Fanatic, you just go Fanatic into Atraxa, and it feels like that wins the game. So I think my opponent actually entombed incorrectly there. Like, their thought was, like, if I hit an Animate Dead, I get multiple copies of Metamorphosis Fanatic, but I think they took away a live draw. Okay. Bury in, Dismember in, Long Goodbye in, Dark Betrayal in, discard stuff probably comes out. I think Indulging Patrician is just bad. That comes out. I'm not sure on the last couple of cards. Sorin is not impressing me thus far. Do I just cut a highly dazable card? That card can be good come end game. I'm going to trim one of these. I don't know that I will miss it. The dream with the Knight is to curve out with the Knight into Exsanguinator Cavalry, but when you don't do that, it feels kind of weak. My mana's awkward here. I have an ETB tapped land that if it is wastelanded, I lose access to both of the removal spells in my hand, and I don't have any other early game plays if that happens. If I resolve this card, I can do it into Exsanguinator Cavalry immediately, and that's pretty good as far as tempo is concerned. I'm gonna reluctantly keep this one. But with Shadowy Backstreet, I probably have to get rid of just about anything that's not a land. Hey, Fairy is excellent. Literally one of my best top decks there, I think. Land is great. Am I happy that it is a basic swamp? In this instance, no. I would prefer another fetch land or scrub land, but it's what I've got to work with. Surveil land, sure. Second land drop, no frog. That's great for me. We are playing a land and passing here, keeping swords and fairy up. Technically, Touch the Spirit Realm is up, but that is not really something that I see myself doing. That is a Bowmasters. You've got it. That's not a particularly potent card against me. I don't even think I am going to use removal here. I don't think it's worth blinking the Orc token, for example. I'll just take that. And we awkwardly stare at each other. My plays are just like so likely to get dazed here. Maybe I have enough to do with my mana over the next couple of turns that at end step, now that nothing else has happened, I just take out this to help stabilize the board versus, like, to keep something like this alive. Lake of the Dead. So I could sacrifice both of my lands to have 6 mana this turn. 7 mana. Never have access to white mana again. Yikes. This seems bad. No, sorry, 6 mana, because I would have played the Lake of the Dead. Yeah, no, I am not interested in playing Lake of the Dead this turn. Let's bait the removal spell. Or sorry, the, like, daze. Maybe a Force of Negation? Negative. Junking a Wasteland. There's the daze. That's fine. We're actually looking to resolve the creature later on. No Entomb, no Troll. We don't really care about Bowmasters hitting us. Junking Fatal Push. That probably tells me there's more removal over there, or that my opponent values other things. Sure. There's the attempted reanimate, which we will stop. Let's get rid of Atraxa. And I don't think the other card matters. I don't think the other card matters. Would I like to sacrifice 2 of my lands? No. Is it going to happen anyway? Yeah. Sacrifice a swamp. This is 7 mana, which is all of these. I'm also going to play Dark Ritual. So this is the bait. This is the card that I actually want to resolve. We've played around Daze. I have Swords to Plowshares around Daze right now. I'm not going to do that, though. Again, we don't care about the Orcish Bowmaster body. Petty Theft. You got it. Anyway, Lake of the Dead, though. It's a Miracled Metamorphosis Fanatic that my opponent couldn't do anything with. Yeah, I hate Lake of the Dead. This sucks. Like, I chop down this. I replay Sheoldred. Because I don't have white mana anymore, I will use my resources poorly on this. Hit my opponent for 2. And I am just in this vicious cycle of having to throw away my lands to keep my cards coming. Fatal Push. Yuck. Oh, a second Metamorphosis Fanatic. Yeah. Luckily, there's nothing to bring back. The Bowmaster is in exile. But the 4/4 Lifelinker beats my 3/4 Menace Lifelinker, I think, on average. We'll do our best. So, do the thing. Make blood tokens. The discard card is as cost, so I can't use this as card advantage. You know what I have to keep doing? Being a lumberjack. Yep. My stuff has resolved, but I think my opponent is just going to easily beat me. Like, Brazen Borrower can trade with my Nighthawk Scavenger. If I make this trade and then my opponent reanimates, they potentially get more value later. Do I need to just Death Touch this out of play and hope that this goes the distance? Sure. Ugh. Opponent has 1 card left, though, so... would so love to have lands to play that, so that I would get 2 counters on my Exsanguinator Cavalry this turn. They Levite. Don't Bowmaster me. They did not Bowmaster me. I will make my land drop so that I have food for Lake of the Dead for the following turn. You got it. Alright, cool. If opponent is attacking here, there's less of a chance that blocks are going to get involved in a minute. I can surveil land here, I suppose. My second shadowy back street. No. At this point, I am fully locked into this Lake of the Dead play big thing pattern. Ooh. Don't mind if I do. Petty theft. Thanks, I hate it. Luckily, we can redeploy it. 4 and 4. This is 5 mana. So I can redeploy this. I have to do this in a dazable way right now, or I just probably don't. Take out this Brazen Borrower. Putting creatures in graveyard is not actually good while Metamorphosis Fanatic is in graveyard, though, unfortunately. So, like, the Animate Deads and Reanimates just get better every time I kill an opposing creature. That is only a 2/3 Psychic Frog. That could honestly be much worse. I wanna play the things that I draw. My creature has Menace. This attack is safe adjacent. I will start scaling up my creature. Do I discard this? If I draw a land, I can play it. I think I'd rather just have a removal spell for Psychic Frog. Let's just junk this. Well, maybe we draw a land for that next turn. How many lands are in my graveyard? 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of 5, 6, 7. Okay. Alright, it flies. Yeah, I guess the Psychic Frog in play is another reason to discard the Nighthawk Scavenger. So my opponent draws a card, which triggers Bowmasters. I'll send that damage at your face. 11. Sure. This doesn't feel good for me. Alright. Sack the swamp. Play the cavalry. Hopefully nothing happens to this cavalry. I don't think I can attack in with this. I don't think that makes sense. Alright, we hit the opponent. I get 2+1/+1 counters on this. I feel so dead. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. We're in +1/+1 counter mode. And then flying. And then flying. Sure. So my opponent is effectively at 6 life. Oh god. Oh my god. Okay. Base. Base. Someone loses the game this turn. Alrighty. It's not me. Somehow it's not me who is dead. And scoreboard, we have beat both of the Psychic Frog decks 2-0. Is this the third hand that Lake of the Dead has made unkeepable? I think it is. I guess keep pitching the Patrician. That card's very weak. I don't think it should be in the deck. I don't know if this is on par for legacy power level compared to something like Tamiyo that could have come down and be immediately threatening. This is a very awkward decision here. Wish this was Fatal Push. Being wastelanded is a disaster right now. Alright. Yuck. It's just like very awkward if my opponent plays something like a Stoneforge Mystic here that I need to remove immediately, that Orcish Bowmasters does not beat out. Ugh. Now we're maybe going to be attacking into something like Ophelia that I have to Swords to Plowshares, and that knocks me off of Night activations, or playing Nighthawk Scavenger. We'll send in for 3 and see what happens. I think I should just play my Nighthawk Scavenger and not activate this. It just sets me up worse for a Swords of Plowshares blowout if I go all in on this. Let's play this and see how bad this turn cycle gets. Like, it could be like Guide of Souls into Felia levels of bad just immediately. My curve's probably not going to work well from here. Yeah. There's Cauldra. There's Swords. Sure. Now my opponent can Felia, blink Stoneforge, pick up another piece of equipment as well. Oh no, going for my Orc token. Sure. Oh? Go on. Sure. Float white. I don't have a basic plane, so I have to use Swords to Plowshares right now. I can Cling to Dust, Swords to Plowshares here, draw a card before I make my decision. I think it's Stoneforge, so Cauldra gets stuck in hand. But now none of my stuff gets to attack. My opponent probably just eats me alive somehow. The real question here is, does my opponent have another color? Like red and blue are somewhat common in these lists. Sure. So my opponent could just blink Flicker Wisp there. I take 4. Flicker Wisp can come back, putting a counter on Felia. My opponent can, like, flicker out my Knight again if they want. So my Sorin is terrible versus Felia. Felia can just attack and kill the token. So to get this game going again, that's my last fetchable untapped white source. Probably need to just touch the Spirit Realm Felia. My opponent might just have a second, and then this doesn't actually do anything. I'm not going to attack into Vial on 2 here. Sure. That's Caldra. Yeah. Jitte also feels very rough. Yeah, that's either Jitte equip or Caldra attack. Either one of those is just a disaster. I am comfortable conceding here. So, removal spell, removal spells. Get rid of this card that I've cut every round. Probably need Touch the Spirit Realm here for artifacts, because my effectively mono black deck doesn't answer that. Cling to Dust isn't great. Hymns aren't the best. Thoughtseize is not the best. I could play Null Rod. My opponent is a 60 card as opposed to an 80 card D&T list, so there is a higher chance that they will find their vials in openers, a higher chance that they will randomly stumble upon a Jitte or something. I think a couple of Thoughtseizes that are more generic are probably better. I think it's a keep. I just don't think it's good. Sort of oxymoron there. By that, I mean, like, I have a reasonable mix of lands and spells. I have a game plan, but I just don't know that what I'm doing is going to be powerful enough if my opponent has something like a Caracas to invalidate this Sheoldred that is kind of at the crux of my game. So I don't care about Mom. I Bowmaster that, or otherwise remove it. I probably just take the long-term value here in the form of Recruiter of the Guard. Cross out Recruiter, and Mom, and Flagstones. I'm fetching a basic swamp. I don't want to get wastelanded, and Rashadan Port is also a bit of a problem. Dang, Mom. So next turn, I potentially just get ported, and then I play the Knight of the Ebon Legion, which is not overly exciting. That's incredibly good here on my opponent's low resource hand. Always punished. You got it. I'll attack for 2. So now my opponent can let Vial tick up. They're not under enough pressure since I don't have the 3rd land drop. The port activation also will take off Long Goodbye. Oh, that's maybe fine. I mean, yeah. So I have to pay 4 life and 2 mana to dismember that. That lets me get in for 3 damage immediately. I just have to stop that Thalia, though. All right. That's fine. I wasn't even sure if my opponent was going to remove that, if I'm being honest. That's a good draw for me. Sure. With a land drop here, I can safely attack into potential Felia. Opponent's at 14. Both vials go up, I presume? Yeah. Double port. Annoying as fuck. My Sheoldred is not likely to get into play. I am going to Shadowy Backstreet. I'll take that. Note that I don't really want lands at this stage of the game. I'll take it because holding up my Long Goodbyes during combat does matter. But this 2 damage a turn from Bowmasters is not really getting the job done at an appropriate rate. And sooner or later, my opponent draws just 1 creature that very quickly takes over the game, like 1 value-oriented creature will do a lot of metaphorical damage. We'll Surveil again. I now have 2 mana after porting to hold up Long Goodbye in combat. I don't think I take that one. My opponent will presumably knock me off of white in this stage, which is fine. Cavalry is fine. When I hit another land drop, that's playable. Sure. Thalia is a pain. That's fine. Now it's hard for me to cast spells. I can Long Goodbye Thalia in upkeep. My opponent bringing Vial to 5 lets me know that they have Solitude in their deck, which I already would have expected. That's annoying. Now Thalia is not removable. Like, they can bounce Thalia, put it right back in with Vial. Sure. Bowmaster is cool, I guess. Attempt to attack for 1. No blocks. I think I'm going to deal the additional point of damage here. If I bounce Thalia, it just gets Caracased, so I'm going to send this at face rather than trying to temporarily get Thalia out of play. That my opponent could fizzle that. Ooh. Oh. Okay. So I just get an Orc right back. That's fine. Opponent could have let the trigger resolve and then not left me with a body. Like, the Solitude can't safely attack right now. I mean, yeah. Taking this double block every day. I'm at 9. They're at 13. Cleared Solitude, so Solitude doesn't get blinked by a Felia or a Flicker Wisp later. And a note to D&T players at home. In situations like the one that we're in right now, you should consider whether or not it is correct to spread Rishadan Port activations out between upkeep and draw step. It is not mattering in this exact instance, but it often does, and it will matter next turn, potentially. I could long goodbye, Caracas bounce, long goodbye in response, and permanently answer Thalia. Council's Judgment. Annoying. The Caracas is what's really annoying here, though, for this. I'm just playing Nighthawk Scavenger here. I have Swords to Plowshare is available, but it doesn't do me any good on Thalia. Alright, Thalia is held back. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to Swords this. I think the answer is no. Got more land. I'll send in with my creature. I have Long Goodbye available for if something like a Flicker Wisp gets flashed in. Opponent's at 9. I stabilize my life total a bit. Doesn't make sense to play Sholdred. I'll just pass the turn here with a couple removal spells available for if some nonsense happens at end of turn. Flagstone's Legend Rule. Probably a positive for me. I can save 2 life here by bouncing this out of play. I don't think that matters. I've used both my Surveil lands, so Marsh Flats can just chill. Lazy, or there a plan? I guess let's find out. Send it. Opponent's at 4. Maybe the Spirit is broken. I will cast Knight. Pass turn. And I do get a counter on this. Yep, okay. Spirit is broken. Opponent got lazy. Well, we won. I think my opponent could have played a little tighter. I think they just bottomed out, if I'm being honest. Like, I took that Recruiter at the beginning of the game, and then they never drew another source of card advantage. I think if they don't do that Solitude attack, it's much harder for me to kill them, and they're drawing to more outs. We take those, though. I don't know that I'm making any sideboarding changes here. Again, I don't think my opinions of Nullrod have changed. Okay. There's some things that this are really awkward against, such as just turn 1 Mother of Runes. Turn 1 Mother of Runes specifically gets in under Bowmasters. Sure, it's another vial. I am fine doing this here, even though I might get wastelanded. I do not want additional land drops right now, so I think it is critical to filter extra lands out of the way. I also want to get deeper for either removal or Thoughtseize. That's fine. Where are all my vampires at? It's incredibly awkward. Judge, is this a vampire? Looks like a vampire. I think this is Swamp Pass rather than Shadowy Backstreet Pass, so that I can play around end of turn Mother of Runes off Aether Vial. I'm so smart and handsome. Dark Ritual. Bowmasters. Got him. This might have been a matchup where, depending on what my opponent's hand looks like, that you actually play the Mother of Runes prior to the Aether Vial. It's a pretty uncommon thing to do. If you have a second mom, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Sure. Yikes. I'm not going to attack into Thalia. Opponent does not have Thalia. That should already be in play. Awkward. Nope. That's a second land that we filtered out of the way. No attacks. Hopefully it's not like end of turn Thalia or Stoneforge Mystic. What are you fucking doing? What are you doing? You deny so much fucking extra mana, and you cut me off so many goddamn options, and you protect that mom so well if you put your fucking Thalia into play. Ah! And no Thalia attack either. Okay. Sure. Deck. Come the fuck on here. I am going to become the Joker and lose my mind. as I lose to this player. Death and Taxes is admittedly a rather difficult deck to play. I spent years playing that deck, which is why I am very critical of opposing D&T lines, because I know them very, very well. I'm going to get boarded. There's a Swords. It doesn't really matter. Not right now, anyway. So, we're going to do some weird multi-turn shit. I'm going to play a Sorin. This is purely a distraction to try to get my opponent to tap Mother of Runes. No vampires to sacrifice, so we are just +1ing. Can have a death touchy creature. We've got a Solitude to play around in a second here. So the hope is my opponent taps Mother of Runes to Thalia attack on this Planeswalker that doesn't actually matter, so that I can Swords to Plowshares the Mother of Runes. That is 5 mana for a Solitude while there is an Aether Vial on 5. Sorin can take 2. That's fine. So, I can get rid of Mom this turn. Is it better to Sorin minus here and Sorin plus here? That's worse if my opponent does actually have a second Solitude. Yeah, I think I need to just take this Mom off board. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 to play both of these at instant speed in a second. No second Solitude. Was opponent just bad and just did not wasteland me and port me while solituding for free? Or is there another Solitude friend to come later? So these are coming at Sorin. Is this my spot? Not yet. Let's block, keep Sorin's loyalty a little higher. Inconvenient. That puts a lot of extra pressure on my resources. Please get Kaldra. Thank you. That's much more beatable. So, let's Swords to Plowshares, targeting Mom. Mom is going to protect herself, which we are fine with. That's just going to happen. That fizzles this. Now, I think we still long goodbye here. We're just going to get rid of this problem. My opponent can take out 2 of my lands. I can still cast a Sorin the Mirthless if this happens. So there's a port. Are you not wastelanding me? Holy shit, they're not wastelanding me. I mean, cool. I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with drawing more mana. I'll just take extra scrub lands here. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorin the Mirthless. Minus this Sorin, create a creature. This is a vampire. Plus this Sorin, sacrifice this vampire, deal damage to this Stoneforge Mystic. I'm going to lose both of my Planeswalkers to regular combat damage here, but I'm still in the fucking game. And I don't think I should be. Goodbye, Sorins. I knew thee well. Sure. Raucous. So Shouldered's not great. We're gonna fetch fully to fucking thin at this point. I don't have Fatal Push, so I don't have to worry about Revolt. Sure. Yes. This is the stuff that I have to just keep top decking here. So this right here should tell us whether or not my opponent has another Solitude. They do. Sure. I don't remember the exact board state, but when I had the Bowmaster and the token, if my opponent puts in the Solitude off the vial, don't I just like lose my Planeswalkers? I think I do. Sure. I don't have any sort of Damnation, Toxic Deluge. These top decks were very bad. We lost to that. GG's. Okay. I'm keeping my opening hand. If removal is not good, then my hand is terrible. And if removal is good, my hand is great. Days. Do I care if I have 2 of them? I don't think I care if I have 2 of them. Let's try to do a thing. I think too frequently I need my 2 mana on turn 2 for one of these 2 plays, so I think I just open myself up to Days here. Days resolves. Let's see if there's Entomb. There is. Oh, that's fine. I'm still probably going to lose to it, but I am much less scared of that than I am in Atraxa, right? Like, this is one dude. I think the 9/9 flying lifelink just beats me anyway. But, like, if I have an Edict here, for example, this is so much worse than something like Atraxa. I think I'm just dead to it anyway. My opponent is effectively back at 19. Not like I'm going to outdamage them from 10 here. Yeah, and I don't have Edicts. Okay. That'll do. Bury Dismember, Long Goodbye, Dark Betrayal, Patrician out. What else did we do? I think I stopped attacking on the discard axis. I think I trimmed Touch the Spirit Realm for colors, and then trimmed a 4-drop. Something in that general ballpark feels okay. Well, we drew Lake of the Dead, which is so much worse than a swamp here. Like, holy shit, it's so bad. Like, if I keep this, I go Dark Ritual, Nighthawk Scavenger, hope it grows, and then I can't play my 2-drops. I think this is the third or fourth hand that we're mulliganing because of Lake of the Dead. Like, if this is a swamp, this hand is quite good. Rough. I guess on 6, I will keep this. It has access to 2 different Surveil lands. That is, I guess, fine. I don't have enough gas to keep up with the average blue-black hand, though. But here's hoping. No! Okay, it's just land pass. Okay, now that I drew a second, do I let the first one be dazable? I think I need to keep up with the tempo of my opponent's deck. If I don't, I can just eat Entomb Reanimate immediately with no recourse, or Psychic Frog when I have no removal spell. Hate this. See what my opponent does. That's fine. I would prefer if you did that after Sheoldred, but, you know, whatever. You can do it either way. We resolved. Unexpected. Maybe my opponent just goes like Entomb into Archon of Cruelty and they don't even have to counter this. Yeah. They take 2 for it and then reanimate it, and then I'm like shit out of luck. Yeah. Not great. This card just doesn't matter anymore. Couple draws at Swords to Plowshares. Let's play this. Play this around days. Ping you. Pass. Sacrifice Orc to Archon trigger. Get new Orc from Archon draw. Discard this. Ping you. Get a Surveil towards Swords to Plowshares to answer this. Otherwise, I'm dead to it. Yep, that seems good. I also suspect that my opponent might have a counterspell here. So even if I top deck, luckily I don't know that it's enough. Dark Ritual to Graveyard. Dismember does not kill Archon of Cruelty. I can pay 2 life, go to 5, turn this into a 1/1. I'm dead to like everything. Send in. Opponent's at 10. Dismember, target Archon, pay 2 life. Yeah, and yeah. This doesn't kill it. If this resolves, I go to 1. Yeah. It doesn't, and I am dead. Did not really play Magic that round. GG's. Okay. So, the claim when I was sent this deck list was that this was like the ultimate anti-frog deck list, which I think is just a classic example of someone brewing a deck and vastly underestimating how good the best deck in the format is. So these frog decks usually have the Reanimator pivot plan, or maybe the Reanimator plan is really the primary plan, and that is just so much more powerful than everything that my deck is doing. The singular Lake of the Dead probably lost me multiple games. This was a really bad slot. We sideboarded this out every time. This is not a legacy power level card. Sorin House of Markov not being optional potentially cost me a game. I also just don't know why we're playing this card. Like, Legacy is a format of singularly powerful cards. Like, that is where the format is at right now. You know, get your Atraxa into play. Get your Volgavoth into play. Get your Murktide Regent into play. Get your Troll into play. Spiral the game out of control with Psychic Frog. Win the game with the Blood Moon. Win the game by sowing Mycospawn into Wasteland, especially if it's kicked. And I think there's a bunch of cards in this deck that are not pulling their weight in a format where every card needs to pull its weight. Like, Knight is an okay mana sink if you don't have anything going on. We're not always going to have 3 mana. We are a 20 land deck. We are a 24 mana source deck counting Dark Ritual, but you don't want to be using Dark Rituals to fuel this. The vampire count for Sorin, I don't know the name of these, Imperious Bloodlord might not be high enough. Like, we controlled a Sorin with no vampire to do the vampire thing in one of our matches, and I don't remember if that was the same game or another game where I had this card in hand but no vampire to dump in, so I couldn't use this as an aggressive tempo play, and that was incredibly awkward. I also don't know if you... I'm not even counting this as a card. If you only have 4 white cards in your deck, is it actually worth it to make your lands wastelandable to have a little bit of removal flexibility? I'm not sure that it is. I wonder if you want 4th Thoughtseize over 2nd Hymn. Boarded him out a lot. What does a current mono black deck that's winning or doing well in challenges actually look like? Let's look at that real quick. I think that's useful for the audience. All right, so there's 2 recent challenge results that actually look okay. Number 1 is this mono black unstoppable slasher deck. And this is much lower to the ground in some ways. Like, it has Unmask that it can use to push an initial threat through. There's a lot of singularly powerful cards here. The Goyf, the Shouldered, the Slasher, the One Ring. So that is 4, 8, 12. So that is 16 kind of standalone threats. I'm going to count the One Ring as a threat. How does that compare to our own list? How many real standalone threats do we have? I'm not going to count the Knight because I don't think that's fair to. We have 10 as opposed to 16. Like, this is situational. These Planeswalkers are, I guess 11. 11 as opposed to 16. Okay. What about the other one? So the other one here has a ton of removal. You pop up on screen? Yeah, you will. Okay. So this one has more 1-drops, so it is less reliant on things like Dark Ritual, and in fact does not even play it. And this is going to have a better curve on average. You have 6 1-drops, you have Bowmasters and Douthie Voidwalker, and a decent number of removal spells for turn 2. If you don't have one of your 1-drops, you have Thoughtseize and Inquisition. You curve out into this. You have 4, 8, I'll count this, 12 good standalone threats. Iridescent Vine Lasher and Emperor of Bones are probably standalone threats as well. Emperor of Bones is a reasonable slot in to this deck list. I wonder if we played more leagues, kind of what we would think of this. I think we would run into some amount of Psychic Frogs shrinking Nighthawk Scavenger in a negative way. I think we would run into more blowouts where we pump mana into this and then a removal spell is used for a single mana, something like a Fatal Push, Swords to Plowshares, Lightning Bolt that just takes out this creature. Yeah, I am pretty negative on this deck list. I think the single Lake of the Dead is really bad. Like, if you are playing a Lake of the Dead in Legacy, the card that you cast off of Lake of the Dead needs to be winning the game. This used to be something that you would do in a Reanimator deck list to just cast a Grave Titan rather than reanimate it. And I think it is reasonable in that sort of shell. But if you are using your Lake of the Dead to cast like a 3 or a 4-drop, and that is cleanly removed by 1-mana legacy spells, or is cleanly Force of Willed or Dazed or whatever, I don't think that's putting you in a good place. Like, I think we had mana-based problems, partially due to Lake of the Dead, maybe partially due to having a secondary color. I think too many of our cards are not strong enough on their own. I think our synergies for some of these cards are questionable. Like, Sorin of House Markov, like, what percentage of the time are we actually going to flip that when we want to flip that? It feels low to me. But I think I've rambled enough here. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day, folks. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. If you need some cards, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU to let them know that I sent you. All right. See ya.